So let's begin this session on operations management by using two simple metaphors. As we all know, a metaphor is a word or a phrase or even an image that can be used to make a comparison between two things. So here's our two bootcamp metaphors for operations management. Are you ready? Imagine for a moment a waterfall. There's no question where the waterfall is going. It's going down. It's going down fast, and the water is taking you and everyone else where you are going. And the direction is down. At first, the waterfall might be fun and exciting if we're in a raft or we're going down. But what if halfway down the waterfall, you and I decide that we want to go back up to the top? Or maybe we want to go to the left or to the right and to take a sudden turn. Unfortunately, that thought may not go so well. It may not go so well because, as we all know, waterfalls are not about change, right? No, they're not. The waterfall is not about to change, and as a result of that, everything is going in one certain direction. And that direction is down, and it's going down very fast. And that is our metaphor for operations, one way of looking at it. Let's leave the waterfall now. Now, if you could imagine a peaceful lake. Imagine that our goal on the lake is to get to another place far away. But that other place has not been defined by somebody else. But we know the other place we want to get to on the lake should be somewhere better for us, better than where we are now. In other words, that other place on the lake is a place where the opportunities are greater for us. We also know that it can get rough sometimes on a lake, but despite that, if we work together as a team and we have the best information available, we have an opportunity to make better decisions even at the last minute. As we explore the lake, looking around, and compared to the waterfall, it's much more controllable for us. So we travel on the lake and we explore the distant places, and eventually we find a place on the lake that everyone agrees looks very nice. And we eventually end up on a new shore, and with that new shore comes new opportunities and possibilities for us all. Now, let's reflect back on these two metaphors. The waterfall metaphor we just imagined represents the traditional form of operational thinking. But the lake metaphor, on the other hand, represents a more agile way of thinking. So then the question is, would you like your company operations to look more like a waterfall? Or would you like your company's operations to look more like a lake? Well, in most businesses, operations management is responsible for creating the highest level of efficiency within the organization. And to do that, operations management teams attempt to balance the cost with revenues in the hope of achieving the highest possible net operating profit, or EBIT, for the company. And by EBIT, we mean a company's revenues less its expenses, such as overheads, but not including the subtraction of tax liabilities or interest paid on debt. but EBIT is closely watched by managers. But that's enough about EBIT. Maybe you're still wondering in what areas of a company operations management might get involved. Well, for the purpose of this bootcamp, operations management includes the supply chain, logistics, production and quality, and distribution of goods and services in a company. Those are the kind of areas we'll be discussing in this session on operations management. And based on this definition, you can see that operations management is responsible for a very diverse set of activities. And one of the major challenges for operations managers is to manage stability and change at the same time. And that is very hard. But they must do that because in today's business environment, managers must deal with stability and change, and they must also manage effectiveness and efficiency at the same time. So effectiveness and efficiency are necessary, especially when faced with both stable and dynamic or constantly changing conditions. In stable conditions, companies are resilient, reliable, and very efficient. And the role of management is to fine-tune the efficiency and reliability. But under the dynamic conditions, a company must be able to be fast and nimble, adaptive and agile, and able to change as necessary. Unfortunately, though, stable and dynamic conditions often oppose each other, and they cause tension in the organization. So in order to manage that tension, managers must design structures and governance arrangements and processes with both a relatively unchanging set of core components, let's call that the organizational backbone, but at the same time, managers must create a looser and more dynamic structures in the organization, and those looser and more dynamic structures are able to adapt quickly to the new challenges and opportunities as they arise and as the markets change. As you can imagine, the capabilities for achieving this balancing act are quite different. Stability, dynamic change, and unfortunately, achieving the necessary balancing between stable and dynamic capabilities is much easier said than done. Why is that? Well, that is because most efficient operations, and pay attention to the word efficient, most efficient operations are finely tuned and adjusted like a Formula One car or a NASCAR racing car in order to carry out specific activities. And the fact that they are highly tuned often makes them inflexible, especially during change. But as we all know by now, when we've been studying in this bootcamp so far, the business environment most companies are faced with today is experiencing continuous change, if not discontinuous change, regularly. So this means that in order for a company to survive and prosper in the future, their operations must be able to deal with stable conditions that can be optimized for efficiency and deal with unstable and uncertain conditions in the marketplace. So it's the role of managers who have operational responsibility to design and organize the company which is able to adapt quickly to the change as necessary, while during stable conditions the operations are highly efficient. Creating the mechanisms for managing stability and managing change is therefore one of the most important tasks for the operations management of a company.